What has happened after the International Court of Justice gave its verdict, asking Israel to avoid acts of genocide? Well, this verdict was hailed as a half-victory for South Africa, the country that fought the case in the ICJ. 15 out of the 17 judges of the ICJ gave orders to Israel to abide by international law. This became one of the few verdicts that went against Israel, a country that is believed to have immunity, no matter what it does. However, the verdict by the ICJ changed that. The world expected that Israel would submit to the verdict and follow it. But that was a mistake. And again, all countries stayed silent except for South Africa. It's because South Africa is keeping a close eye on Israel to see whether it follows the court's orders or not. And just recently, South Africa officially said that Israel is openly defying the ICJ's orders, showing no respect for the court. This has started a new controversy, saying that the legal battle between South Africa and Israel is not over yet. So what has South Africa done, and what is it planning to do next? Let's find out. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation World brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, you will find our videos intriguing. About 5 days have passed since the International Court of Justice gave its verdict on the South Africa versus Israel case. In this verdict, the court accepted some of South Africa's suggestions, giving explicit orders to Israel to avoid acts of genocide in Gaza. The court mandated Israel to take all necessary actions within its authority to prevent acts of genocide in the Gaza Strip. This includes measures such as stopping and penalizing provocation to genocide, protecting Palestinian civilians, and ensuring unrestricted access to humanitarian aid. Additionally, the ICJ urged for the immediate and unconditional release of hostages abducted during the Hamas attack on Israel in October 2023, who are still being held captive in Gaza. Stressing the urgent need for humanitarian assistance, the court emphasized Israel's responsibility in facilitating access to essential services and aid to alleviate the severe living conditions endured by Palestinians in Gaza. Both Israel and South Africa were instructed to preserve any evidence relevant to potential acts of genocide in Gaza, which is crucial for potential future legal actions. Israel was further directed to submit a comprehensive report to the ICJ within 1 month, detailing the measures taken to comply with the provisional measures, which the court will evaluate. Moreover, the ICJ restated that all parties involved in the Gaza conflict are bound by international humanitarian law, requiring adherence to the Geneva Conventions and other relevant treaties governing armed conflict. But guess what? Israel has openly defied ICJ's orders. At this, South Africa could no longer stay silent. 5 days have passed since the verdict, and Israel is in no mood to stop the killings. This meant, as South Africa thought, that Israel had planned to simply not get bothered by the orders at all. Now, even if other world countries can let that happen and allow Israel to get away with it, South Africa cannot. Therefore, it is officially declared that Israel is openly defying the court's order, hinting that the powerful states can do whatever they want, even if it means killings, and not following orders that demand the stopping of those killings. You should know that South Africa is acting as the only guardian of the people of Palestine, with whom everyone knows what's being done. South Africa is giving voice to the Palestinians in the besieged coastal enclave, who are accusing Israel of failing to adhere to the International Court of Justice's ruling on the South Africa genocide case, which specifically directed Israel to prevent genocidal acts in the Gaza Strip. However, one by one, within only 5 days, Israel has violated all the orders given by the ICJ. Therefore, many Palestinians in Gaza believe that the Israeli military continues to commit genocidal crimes without regard for the ICJ's decision. But what has been Israel's response, and what does it plan to do? Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue now. Well, as expected, Israel rejected South Africa's accusations at the United Nations top court, calling them untrue and grossly distorted. Israel argued that its military operation in Gaza wasn't a state-led genocide against Palestinians, but rather a defensive action against Hamas. How Israel says and defends this argument is beyond rationality. Despite this, Israel had urged the International Court of Justice to dismiss the case, claiming it lacked merit, and refused South Africa's request to halt the offensive. Lawyer Malcolm Shaw said, "This is not genocide." South Africa had informed the court that Israel's aerial and ground offensive causing nearly 24,000 casualties according to Gaza health authorities, aimed at the destruction of the population of Gaza. However, Israel maintained its stance, affirming its adherence to international law and its right to self-defense. What's more, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel will defy the world if needed to defeat Hamas. You can estimate how far Israel plans to go. Therefore, defying the ICJ's order seems just a minor act when the Israeli Prime Minister plans to even defy the whole world. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Minister Benny Gantz, made it clear that they are sticking to their guns in the military offensive against Hamas in Gaza despite the ICJ's decision. During a joint press conference, they shot down calls to slow down or stop the operation, underlining the importance of Western support for Israel's fight against Hamas, which they argued is not just about them but a win for the entire free world. What's more, Netanyahu has rejected the hostage release order of the ICJ as well. However, it was cited and portrayed in a way that Hamas is becoming the actual problem. It was said by Israel that it will not accept hostage release on Hamas's terms, which included Israel pulling out entirely from Gaza and allowing Hamas to stay in power. As Israeli planes resumed bombing Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, senior Hamas official Sami Abu Zuhri said Netanyahu's refusal to halt the military offensive meant Israeli captives wouldn't be released. Hamas demands an end to the war, our forces withdrawing from Gaza, and the release of all criminals, Netanyahu stated, and letting Hamas stay in control. I absolutely reject Hamas's surrender terms, Netanyahu emphasized. After a deal in late November led to the release of over 100 hostages taken during a Hamas attack on October 7th, pressure grew on Netanyahu to get the remaining 136 hostages freed. The Hostages and Missing Persons Families Forum called on Netanyahu to assure Israel wouldn't abandon those kidnapped in October. We need to follow through with the deal now, they insisted. If the Prime Minister chooses to sacrifice the hostages, he needs to show leadership and honestly tell the Israeli public his stance. So what needs to be done now? It's quite possible that South Africa will sue Israel again, this time on charges that Israel is now following the court's orders and continue acts of genocide. And South Africa is not alone who is accusing Israel of openly defying ICJ's orders. Algeria is actively pushing for UN action following the International Court of Justice's ruling on the Gaza conflict. The ICJ instructed Israel to take immediate steps to prevent genocide in Gaza, prompting several countries, including Algeria, to advocate for enforcement of this ruling. As a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, Algeria has called for a council meeting to discuss the legal implementation of the court's urgent measures and their binding nature. In other words, Algeria is of the view that the ICJ's orders should be enforced because Israel is in no mood of following them independently without an enforcer. The ICJ's ruling is viewed as a test of the UN's commitment to a rule-based system and the protection of human lives. It will show whether a powerful state can openly break international law and can go unpunished. According to Human Rights Watch, governments need to put pressure to ensure the ICJ's order is enforced. The International Rights Group asserts that the swift ruling by the top UN court acknowledges the crisis in Gaza. Balkis Jara, Associate Director of International Justice at Human Rights Watch, states, "The ICJ's landmark ruling is a wake-up call to Israel and its allies, highlighting the urgent need for immediate action to prevent genocide and further atrocities against Palestinians in Gaza." Jara stresses the severity of the situation and urges governments to act quickly to implement the court's directives, stating, "Lives are at risk, and governments must act urgently to ensure the order is followed." She adds, "The extent and severity of civilian suffering in Gaza due to Israeli war crimes demand urgent attention." However, the ICJ's ruling has raised doubts about its effectiveness. Concerns arise from the perception that the International Court of Justice, also known as the World Court, is viewed as slow-moving and bureaucratic. Additionally, the court lacks mechanisms to enforce its judgments, leading to situations where its decisions are disregarded. Another issue is that some countries may opt not to acknowledge the court. However, as a party to the Genocide Convention, Israel is obligated to appear before the ICJ when South Africa filed a case against it. Even if the ICJ had ordered a ceasefire, it is improbable that Israel would have complied. However, South Africa can do one thing: continue taking Israel to court and expose the whole world order and how it's abused by powerful nations. What do you think? Should South Africa take Israel to the ICJ and International Criminal Court this time to enforce the verdict? How can the world unite and make Israel follow the ICJ's orders to keep the sanctity of the World Court? In the comments section right below, let us know whether you already knew that Israel would never follow the ICJ's order. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.